Hey everyone, welcome back to Rank and File Sports. And today we're going to be doing another March Madness prediction based on the bracketology which came out today. Recording this on Tuesday. We'll start off in the first four, like we did last time, with Nebraska and Oklahoma.
I'm going to say the same thing I said in the other one. I would find it really funny if Nebraska still fails to get a win in the March Madness bracket. I don't know if a first four game counts, but Oklahoma has had, I think, more significant highs. I think playing in the SEC is definitely a big difference maker for them. So I have Oklahoma in this one.
Yeah, the 16 seeds, I don't really know. Southern, I feel like I've
Is,
seen them win a
is this the
16 seed
same
game.
matchup that we had in the last
I think it
bracketology?
is. I,
I don't know.
I,
I think we
it
picked
might be.
American in that one just because,
Oh well.
oh well, who cares?
Arkansas and Wake Forest. I like Calipari there.
Hmm.
And then Marist and Southeast Missouri State. We'll go SEMO this time. All right. Auburn and Southern. Moving on. Creighton and Gonzaga.
I think this is another moving on. I think
I
Creighton is going to be one
I
of
like
those.
Creighton by a lot
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Oregon and Drake is interesting. I know we had a Drake upset last week. I feel like that Oregon's another team they could upset.
yeah.
And I really like Drake to pull an upset.
I don't remember who we had them upsetting last time, but
I think it was Maryland.
I feel like Oregon is an easier upset. I think Oregon started the season off really hot, but since then they've kind of
They beat
cooled
Wisconsin.
off. I guess they
That was
did
the
beat
big win.
Wisconsin.
That took them from an 8 to a 5 this just in the last 4 days.
Overall,
Arizona's going to beat Akron this time.
yeah.
Kansas and Ohio State, same matchup as the last bracketology we did, just this time it's a 6-11 instead of a 7-10. I think I'm going to stick with my pick.
I'm in agreement here. I feel like Kansas could still show up. Like they still have Hunter
They
Dickinson, who
definitely could. I just haven't been impressed with this Kansas team all season.
no.
I feel like they're going to have an early exit.
But if Ohio State keeps playing like they have the last couple games, then
They won't
it
even be in
doesn't.
March Madness
Yeah,
then.
they won't even be in it. But if they were to still somehow make it, I wouldn't count on them to beat
Yeah.
this Kansas team. Kansas can play like they played against BYU and still probably beat Ohio State.
Now, Kentucky JMU, that is not a good matchup for Kentucky, in my opinion.
I don't
I
know a
think
lot about JMU
Kentucky,
in this
I still
one.
think Kentucky's going to win, but that's definitely, that's probably not the ideal scenario
Hmm.
for Kentucky.
I think I saw something where James Madison is one of those Cinderella teams or one of those favorites to be a Cinderella
Yeah.
team.
So, I mean, that's a potential for a big upset. We'll go ahead and pass on it for now, but watch out, Kentucky, if you
Mhm.
get James Madison. Memphis and Vanderbilt, I like the Commodores here as one of our first upsets.
I think Memphis just got a big win or something. Maybe not. I thought they had a big win against some team, but I don't think they did. But Memphis is a decent team, but I think Vandy, once again, like I was saying with Oklahoma and Nebraska, because Vandy's has such a tough schedule playing in the SEC, I think that's just going to be the difference maker in this game.
Yeah. And then Michigan State should take down Robert Morris.
Yeah.
Florida will beat Omaha. And then
Hmm.
I really like this BYU team. Now that they're not matched up against Clemson, I can actually let them go through a round. I like them over Utah State. It's an in-state matchup, kind of fun. I don't like this matchup, Clemson and UC San Diego, because I know that UC San Diego is one of those possible Cinderella teams, but I love this Clemson team.
Yeah.
I really think they're going to be good.
Yeah, the ACC is in a really weird spot. Their top three teams are all, I think, really good. Duke, Clemson, and Louisville are all really good teams that could make runs. But outside of that, they're kind of weak. I think SMU is their next best team. They haven't beaten a single like top 25 team.
SMU
Um,
has like 5 losses and they're not even in this bracket.
yeah, the ACC in general is just kind of all over the place. But I do really like this Clemson team. I think UC San Diego will give them a scare, but Clemson should get a win here.
Yeah. I hope for both of their sakes that's not a matchup because if they get anybody else, both of them probably end up moving on. I could see UCSD pulling an upset. Purdue, I like them to beat Jacksonville State.
Only because I don't know a lot about Jacksonville State, but the way Purdue's been playing
Yeah,
lately, like they're not doing well at the wrong time. They're losing too many games down the stretch of the season, and I think they're 4.5 games out of Michigan State right now for top seed in the Big Ten
I yeah, I would pick UCSD over Purdue if that was a matchup.
for sure, but I don't know enough about Jacksonville State. I think Purdue actually
Yeah,
would get the
I don't
job done in
either.
that one.
UCLA and Arkansas. This is another interesting one because no matter who wins this game, I would pick them to beat Texas A&M in the second round.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. UCLA, I think, has a little bit of a size advantage. I think they have like a 7-1 or 7-3 center.
Like
Someone,
he's
someone
seven
that's
three, seven
ginormous.
three. I forget his name. Mara.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But just like our last bracket when we did this, I think John Calipari being the head coach with that experience in this situation is going to carry a long way. I like Arkansas in this one once again.
I do think UCLA is either going to be a team that makes a run or chokes really early.
Yeah. A&M here.
Yep. Well, this one I'm not sure. I don't know a whole lot about VCU this season. Obviously, we're going to do a lot more research when we get to an actual
hmm
March Madness bracket.
We're gonna look at those conference tournaments, see what's going on. But overall, I think I like Ole Miss in the this one. Once again, I think the
Yeah,
SEC is going to be one of the best teams in this tournament. I think they're definitely gonna field the most teams because essentially
they're
top to
they're at
bottom they have
13.
essentially top to bottom they have probably the best teams in the country except for South Carolina and LSU.
Yeah, and then we got Iowa State taking down Norfolk State.
Iowa State's going to drop a couple spots though. Like it's not their
They
fault
are
considering their top two scorers are out, but they're not going to be a 2 seed
right.
going
We
into
are
next week.
recording this just after Iowa State dropped a huge upset to Oklahoma State. Duke will take down SEMO.
Yeah.
This one, I think I'm going to go UConn over
I'm
New
going
Mexico.
UConn in that one. I forget who we had UConn matched up against in
I
the
think it
last
was
one,
Auburn last time.
uh but I feel more confident about UConn getting a win here.
Missouri and McNeese.
Missouri here.
None of these 5-12s aside from Drake are really good matchups for the 12s,
hmm
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like Michigan here over Lipscomb.
Yes.
St. Mary's in Texas. This one, I mean, I could go either way.
This is a tough one because I feel like Texas at times has hung with the top SEC teams, but they just allowed South Carolina to get their first win in conference a couple days
That's
ago.
embarrassing.
So I'm leaning St. Mary's for this one
Yeah,
purely for that fact.
Texas Tech and Utah Valley should be Red Raiders here.
Yeah,
Louisville and West Virginia. This is another interesting one.
I think this could go either way. It's it is a tough one. I wouldn't be mad with whoever you picked. I'm sure you have a better opinion about this than I
Let's
do.
let's go with Louisville. I
Okay.
feel like Louisville could. Hasn't it been a while since they've made March Madness and had a good season?
I
Because I
don't
feel
know.
like they might go on a bit of a run this year.
Because they had that one Final Four run, like what, almost a decade ago, something
Yeah, it
like
was
that.
well 2013 they won it and then had it taken away by the NCAA.
Oh yeah,
Tennessee over Central Connecticut.
yeah.
But yeah, I Louisville could be a potential surprise team this year. Alabama will beat Bryant. Illinois and Baylor.
It's gonna be a good matchup, but it just depends on what kind of team shows up. Because Illinois has been at the highest of highs and at the lowest of lows. I think Baylor, just because they've
Yeah,
been a little bit more consistent, I like them
I
a
was gonna
little
pick
bit.
Baylor here.
The only thing that could maybe save Illinois in this one is I think they're playing in this bracket at least, they're playing in the Midwestern region. So I think their host site is Indy, maybe something like that. So they might have like a home court advantage essentially, but I still think Baylor would get the job done. I
Yeah,
think they've been more consistent.
that's definitely my favorite of the 8-9 matchups,
hmm
though. I feel like that'd be a really fun one. Maryland and Yale. This one is one of the other 5-12s that it could potentially be an upset.
I go back and forth with this one because Maryland's got some big guys down low. Like they're not
They
the
do.
tallest
And
guys, but they're just like physically big and strong, and they're gonna dominate you in the paint. But Yale, I mean, we saw last year when they beat Auburn, and
exactly.
like this is a tough one to predict. I might go with Yale here in a close one. I don't feel strongly either way.
Yeah,
I could
I
see a
could see
Maryland
either.
team bullying Yale, but
I could see either, especially because Yale pulled the upset last season. I like St. John's over High Point.
yeah,
Marquette in Oklahoma. I think Marquette.
Marquette should get the job done here. They've kind of been up and down too, but I
Yeah,
think their biggest losses have been to the other like top ranked Big East teams.
yeah. Wisconsin will beat Chattanooga.
Yep.
Mississippi State, San Diego State.
I mean, you know me, Mississippi State's one of
Yeah,
my teams this year that I've been picking, but San Diego State might give them a run for their money, but it should be
yeah.
a good game.
Houston will take down my home state team in Montana. On
Kind
to
of a
the
no-brainer.
second round. Auburn and Creighton. I
This
hate this matchup.
this
I hate this
if
matchup.
you watched our last video, you know that like half of our Elite Eight is in this one region now. I think we had Auburn, Creighton,
We had Auburn, Creighton,
Arizona.
Arizona, and I don't.
I
I
don't
think
think we had
Vanderbilt.
Vandy. We had Vandy
Vandy
going
played
decently
Tennessee,
far, but
Sumter.
maybe that
They might
was
have
a
lost to
Sweet
Tennessee the
16.
round before or something. But either way, this bracket makes it impossible.
This is essentially picking either the overall number one team in the bracket or a team that I think is severely underrated in this bracket. Am I
Here's
am I crazy for saying Creighton?
I don't think you are, because the way that I'm looking at it is we generally see a one seed go out before the Sweet 16. And if you look at the other matchups, not to spoil anything, but I like Florida over BYU, I like Duke over UConn, and I like Bama over Baylor. So I don't really know what other one it could be.
Yeah, BYU over Florida just kind of depends because Florida did just lose to Georgia today as
Right,
well, and
right.
BYU has shown that
It's
they
not
can
impossible.
compete.
It would be one of these two in my opinion. So
Mhm.
we're either picking Creighton or we're picking BYU, and I'll let you decide that.
I'll go with Creighton for now. I think it'd be a very good game and one that people are going to be like, this should have been like a Final Four matchup or whatever. But
Yeah,
between that and like even the Duke UConn game, depending on if UConn gets their stuff together, like that could be an interesting game. But I think the for sure game that will be interesting between the ones and eights that we have will be Creighton Auburn, and I like Creighton in that one.
yeah. I like Arizona over Drake.
I do too.
Sets up a Sweet 16 matchup of Creighton and Arizona. I believe that was one of our semifinals
It probably
last time.
was.
Either a semifinal or a Elite Eight. So our bracket's going to look a little bit different this time. Ohio State and Kentucky. This is a rematch from earlier this year, and Ohio State won that game by 30.
Eh, it's tough to put that in perspective that just because it was so early in the season, things change. With the way Ohio State's been playing recently, like
There's just no way.
they just gotta
There's
put
no
the
way
ball
they
in the
beat
basket.
Kentucky.
And that's what's hard about this, considering that Ohio State is still in this bracket, even though I've seen some other people, it's not necessarily official stuff, but I've seen other people's bracketologies where Ohio State is one of the first four teams out. And
Yeah,
honestly, I kind of agree with them with the way they've been
I
playing.
don't think Ohio State should be in right now.
This is tough because I could also see Kentucky choking again because like I don't know if I said it in the last video, but I picked Kentucky a couple times the last couple of years to go pretty far, and they lose to St. Peter's in the first round. Um,
Oakland
so
the year
yeah,
after.
exactly. So I think Kentucky
Hey, it could
is.
even be JMU this round.
I mean, it could. I think
Speaking of James Madison, have you seen the Sun Belt bracket for the conference tournament?
I have not. Can I go look at it right now?
It's one of the worst conference tournament brackets I've ever seen.
Oh boy, explain it
If
to me.
so, yeah, if you haven't seen it, go look it up. But essentially, the top two teams in the conference get a bye all the way to the semifinals, and every two teams before, so 3 and 4 get a bye to the quarterfinals, and they have 7 rounds. So two teams come in each round. So if you're seeded 11 through 14, in order to win it all, you have to win 7 games in 7 days. But the 1 and 2 seed have a maximum of 2 games to be able to win it.
That's absurd.
Yeah,
What?
if you're watching and you haven't seen this conference tournament bracket, you need to look it up. It's
Oh
ridiculous.
my gosh. Okay, well, that's crazy.
Potential
Anyway,
advantage for JMU as, only having played 2 games in their conference tournament potentially.
or disadvantage, maybe
Kentucky
they'll be
playing in
cold.
this is making me rethink Kentucky even being in that game.
Eh, I don't know. I still think Kentucky gets the job done.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
like
saying it's gonna
Kentucky
be
over Ohio
pretty.
State here.
I like Kentucky
But
over Ohio State as well. But
there's a chance that JMU is potentially there, in which case I'd probably pick JMU over Ohio State anyways.
yeah, this is kind of a weird side of the bracket with this Kentucky team.
Yeah, Vanderbilt and Michigan State. We've talked about this potential matchup, and I know we disagree on this one. Michigan State has not made the second round or the second weekend of the tournament in I think it's 6 years. So that's my take on it.
But then my take is, well, this is finally going to be the year because I personally think that Michigan State is the hottest team in college basketball right now. What do they have? They have top 15 wins over Purdue and Michigan in their last week of playing. I, I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout for Michigan State. I think Vandy will make this a close game. Honestly, if I'm going to predict this game right now, I'd say Vandy's up at halftime or something. But I think Tom Izzo is going to have a spectacular run this year and will solidify his claim as maybe the best Big Ten men's basketball coach of all time. I mean, this is just me saying, I'm not saying it will actually happen. He'd have to probably win the championship this year, but he just took over for most wins in Big Ten history. So
Yeah. I'll give you the Michigan State pick. All right, Florida BYU. This is the other potential 1 seed upset, but since we already have one, I don't think there's going to be two.
I like Florida in this one. I think once
Yeah,
again, this should be a good game. It just depends on if BYU plays that same level they did against Kansas.
yeah. Clemson, Purdue, another good one, but I like Clemson.
I do too. Once again, if Purdue had a slightly harder matchup like UC San Diego, I'd pick UC San Diego in a heartbeat.
Yeah, Arkansas and A&M.
This A&M team is pretty good, but once again, I think Calipari's experience in this case is going to carry him a little bit. I like Arkansas on that one. Texas A&M's
I
also kind of been a little all over the place.
I 100% agree with that. And this is a tough matchup for Iowa State in my
Hmm.
opinion. Because well, I don't know. The Big 12 is one of the other really good basketball conferences.
Hmm.
Iowa State's faced a lot of top competition.
Yeah.
I feel like
And
this comes down to this is going to be a shootout.
and Iowa State's recent performances is a factor of having their two leading scorers out with minor injury. I think one was out with an illness for the Houston game, and the other had a muscle strain. So they both should be back for the Big 12 tournament as well as the actual tournament. Granted, they'll probably slip a couple spots. But I think if everyone was healthy, I'd take Iowa State in this one. But like you said, I think this
Yeah,
would be offense all over the place. But Iowa State, I think, would come out in a close one.
I can agree with that. I like Duke over UConn.
I do too, unless UConn
Missouri,
turns into
Missouri and
championship
Michigan.
UConn.
I think this is a Michigan win.
I think so too,
I like Texas Tech over St. Mary's,
as well.
and I like Louisville over Tennessee.
I do too. Tennessee, I'm not.
Really?
I'm no. I'm with Louisville, but Tennessee is one of those teams where I was initially kind of dogging on them. I didn't really trust them, but past couple weeks they've started to put some stuff together, get some good quality wins. Just kind of depends on how they're doing today
Yeah,
against LSU because I saw they were in a somewhat close game with LSU, but overall, I do think Tennessee is going to be a better team than I initially was giving them credit for, but I still like Louisville in this one.
I thought I was going to have to fight you for that pick.
Nah,
Tennessee's up by 14 right now with 3.5 minutes left. Alabama is playing at or against Baylor here. That's a tough one. It's another potential one seed upset, but I do think this Bama team, the offense is just too much.
I think so too. I think Mark
St.
Sears is playing at
John's
another level.
St. John's should be able to beat Yale.
Yeah, I really like this St. John's team.
Marquette and Wisconsin, I think that's a Wisconsin win.
I think so too. Outside of
And
Michigan State,
then
Wisconsin is one of the hottest teams in
yeah,
basketball right now.
give me Houston
Yeah,
over Mississippi State as well.
sorry to the Bulldogs, but Houston is going to make a massive run.
Creighton and Arizona. This it's tough that it's this early, but I don't know who I'd pick here. Honestly, I think I'm going to lean Arizona.
It's a difficult one because they play two completely different games. Creighton is feeded in down low to their big man, who's I'm forgetting his name, but he's like a Naismith Award winner, um, like finalist or something, or one of the early favorites. But obviously, Arizona's got Caleb Love leading the squad, and I don't know. I'm torn with this one too. I'll go with Arizona for you right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if we were to get this matchup that Creighton comes out with the win.
Yeah. And then Kentucky, Michigan State.
I think Michigan State.
I yeah, I'll go ahead and go Michigan State here as well.
I think Kentucky just in this case gets the benefit of a relatively easy path to the Sweet 16. But once they get to Michigan
Yeah.
State, I don't think they'll stand a chance.
Florida and Clemson.
This is a tough one.
I was gonna let you talk first because I've made up my mind.
This Clemson team has
I
beaten Duke
exactly. I
and
think that they're going to pull off one really big win, I think, and I don't think Purdue classifies as that really big win.
I'll go with
So
Clemson on this one with
I think
you.
Clemson's gonna get a win over Florida there.
It's gonna be a high scoring
Arkansas
game
and
though.
Iowa State. I'm really tempted to end Calipari's run here,
Man,
but
this is
I think
tough.
I'm gonna pick Arkansas. I'm tempted to
This
pick Iowa
this
State,
this is a
but
tough one.
we don't okay, think about it this way. There's no opportunities to get another double digit seed into the Elite Eight. So I think we have to pick Arkansas.
All right, I'll go with you.
Yeah. Duke and Michigan. I think Cooper Flag and the Blue Devils are the better team.
Yeah,
Texas Tech and Louisville. Another tough one.
I'm gonna lean Texas Tech here. I know the game's not over, but Louisville is currently up four on Virginia Tech, with
Virginia Tech is not very good.
about 4 minutes to go. Um,
All
I
right.
I mean I think Louisville will stand a chance, but I think Texas Tech
I do too.
has a good stretch of games towards the end of the season where they're playing some of the top teams in the Big 12, and then they'll most likely play those same teams in the Big 12 tournament. So I think they'll be ready for games like that against Louisville. So I like the Red Raiders in that one.
Alabama St. John's, another matchup I don't like. Both of these teams, they could I could see both of these teams making the Elite Eight if they weren't in this same little portion of the bracket.
Mhm. Yeah, 'cause Mark Sears has been at like a nuclear level the last couple games, and I feel like at the biggest stages, Alabama does tend to explode offensively, but at least in those
They,
offensive explosions, they ended up losing those games to Auburn and
I was just gonna
Missouri.
say, when you look at Alabama the past few years in March Madness, they keep losing unexpected games early on, round of 32 or Sweet 16, those type of games. I feel like this is another one where St. John's. will pull the upset.
I feel like what I'm going to use to justify this is, do I think Creighton stands a chance against Alabama? And I think the answer would be yes. I'm not saying Creighton would necessarily beat Alabama, but I think they would stand a chance. St. John, I believe, is 2-0 against Creighton. If they're not, they at least have a recent win at home against Creighton. It was by 6 points, but if Creighton can hang with Alabama, which in my opinion I think they can, I think St. John's can then hang with Alabama and possibly get that win. So
Good old transitive property.
yeah, not 100%
Wisconsin and
accurate.
Houston. Wisconsin and Houston's another really good matchup. Badgers obviously just lost at home recently to Oregon. Houston just lost to, or no, they beat Iowa State. Sorry,
Yeah,
I don't remember who they lost to recently. I think they're on a 7 game winning streak right
I
now.
think they are.
Anyways, my point is the Houston defense is really solid, and I think that they
Mhm.
beat Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, so our Elite Eight, we have a 4 seed and a 2 seed, a 5 seed and an 11 seed. Not from the play-in anymore, right? No, they are from the
They are
play-in
from the
still.
play-in.
I do think they'll get out of that eventually.
Yeah,
A 1 seed and a 3 seed, and a 4 seed and a 2 seed. So a
Arkansas
little
will
bit
probably
higher
slide.
seeds, I think. A little bit
Arkansas
higher
will
seeds than
probably
last
slide
time.
into Ohio State's spot if Ohio State continues to tumble. Probably
Yes,
get that.
I don't think that Arkansas is going to end up having to play in the play-in games. I
Mhm.
think they'll be in. Arizona, Michigan State.
These are two similar teams. They're both led by their guards. I I'm having a really tough time picking this one because Arizona did just lose to BYU. Granted, that was in a very controversial fashion. I don't know if you saw the play at the very
I
end,
did.
and honestly, I don't know what that was, but you got to go with it. I do think BYU is a good team though, so I'm not gonna knock Arizona for losing in that game as much. But man, dude, this Michigan State team has been tearing it up recently. I think they're going to keep it going. So I like the Spartans in this
Yeah,
one. I do think it will be a lot of shooting, a lot of points scored.
yeah. And then I think Clemson is
Hmm.
going to be the team to end Arkansas's run here.
Agreed.
Quite the semifinal matchup there with Michigan State and Clemson.
Seems like a college football playoff matchup from like a decade ago.
Yeah, 2015, I think, was when Michigan State made the playoffs. Duke and Texas Tech. I think, once again, Cooper Flag and the Blue Devils get it done.
Yeah, he's the difference maker. Texas Tech is a good
Yeah,
team, but I don't think they'll stand. They'll put up a good fight, but I don't think they'll be able to stop Cooper Flag and the Blue Devils.
yeah. St. John's and Houston. I think this is where the Red Storms uh, run comes to an end. This Houston defense is incredibly solid. And we had them winning our bracket from Friday.
I
So I
agree.
like Houston there.
I like the Cougars in this one too. That'll set up a crazy Final Four matchup.
Yeah. Michigan State should beat Clemson, in my opinion.
I think they will too.
And honestly, Duke and Houston, I'm
That
not very torn on this. I like the Blue Devils.
that that's a tough one. That on paper that should be the national championship game. Like that is the best freshman and arguably the best player in college basketball right now. And Cooper Flag going up against probably the best defense in all of basketball right now. Considering from last video, even though Houston's defense is that good, that they're relatively undersized. I don't think they have any like experienced 7-footers or anything. Not that that's necessary to win, but I think that size will be the biggest difference in that. And for that reason, I'm going to go Duke.
And like you said, on paper, Duke and Houston should be the national championship. I know you like this Michigan State team and they made it all the way to the national championship, but Duke, in my opinion, gets it done.
I I'm with you. It's gonna be
Yeah.
if that happens, it's gonna be a great game. Like this is A
That would be an
college
amazing run
basketball.
for Izzo.
This is a college basketball Blue Bloods national championship game. This is like old school. Like if this happens, Coach K, is showing up to that game.
Yeah,
But
that Michigan State and Duke that's a great matchup.
didn't they have a matchup a couple brackets ago? Like not like within the last 2, 3 years, but a couple brackets ago where it was the Denzel Valentine Michigan State team, I think. Maybe it wasn't a bracket game, but maybe it was a regular season game. But I mean it's gonna be an instant classic of a game if that's what we
Yeah.
get. But
I mean the whole Elite Eight really is blue bloods in college basketball with Arizona, Michigan State, Duke and Texas Tech, St. John's, Houston. We'll kind of just ignore the little Clemson Arkansas thing over
that's the
here.
new bloods.
That
That's
I don't know what's going on with this part of the bracket. This three-fourths really, this is college basketball. This is like the random teams who are kind of just good now.
Mhm. They need to take some of the teams from the top left quadrant and
This is
move
a
them into
weird
the bottom
bracket.
left bracket. Yeah. I mean,
Really weird
it's
bracketology the way it
it
played out from
it's just
ESPN
how
this
they
time.
make it, but yeah, a lot of good teams or a lot of teams that people are really high on ended up in the same sides of the bracket and have to play each other early on. And like we said, probably 100 times during this video, there's so many matchups that we don't want to happen that early because they
Yeah,
should be the later round matchups.
I would be disappointed if March Madness came out and had like if it was exactly like this, I would be disappointed in this bracket
If I
just
have to
because I think so many of those teams would be able to make it further.
if I have to have a Creighton versus a 1 seed matchup in the second round, I am going to be livid.
Well, then Creighton needs to win some games and get out of that 8 seed spot.
Maybe they'll make a run
Get
in the
themselves
big.
up to like a 6 and get matched up against Kentucky in the
Mhm.
second round.
Yeah, maybe they'll get
Something
a
like that.
Big East berth or something. And that'll take them a little farther. Maybe they'll make a run.
Yeah, if they can finally get past St. John's in the
True.
conference tournament. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And we'll see you in our next bracketology coming out on Friday.